So what do we mean by nation? We all use this term nation in our deliberations, yes. What goes into the making of a nation? You see, nation is not just a piece of land with geographical boundaries. Nation is not made by that way. Nation actually is made by the people who live in that piece of land or in that geographical area. It is made by the people. And for a nation to come into existence, there has to be something common which gives this entire group of people an identity. I repeat this point, this is very important. There has to be something common which ties this entire group of people and which gives them a common identity. If that is not there, a nation does not come into existence. Now, if you look into the different nations that have come about in the history, you will see that the nations in the West, especially, we have to make a comparison between the nations, how they have come about in the West, and about India as a nation. When we look into the emergence of the different nations in the West, you will find that these nations, they have come about hovering around the common factor called language. You see, there is a group of people who speak one language, say French language. And these people, because of that one linguistic identity, they form a nation called France. And similarly, the Spaniards, the Germans, and so on, the Russians, the Chinese, they all speak one common language, and that gives them an identity that we are one nation. And that is how these nation states have come into existence. And there are several other factors also in this, like race is one factor. Kings, the great kings, there have been great monarchs in the West, and the people, they got connected with these monarchs, and then they formed a nation. Now, if we take these cases to understand what nation is or what goes into the making of nation, the next question comes: what went into the making of India as a nation? Was it language? Race? Did we have one king who ruled over the entire landscape of India, due to which we got our nationality? Was that the case? India's case is the most unique case in the entire history of humanity and on the planet itself. This is what Swami Vivekananda keeps on reminding us, that we are a totally different group of people who existed as a nation right from the ancient times. It's very interesting, when we were in the school, we were told that it is the Britishers who came and first made us a nation. And nothing could be a bigger lie than this great narrative which was built up by the Europeans. India existed as a nation from the most ancient times. But the question is, what went into the making of the Indian nation? It cannot be language, because we have, even today, we have thousands of dialects in this land, and more than 24 languages, recognized language in the Constitution of India. So right from the ancient times, this was a land where people spoke different dialects and different languages. So there was not one language which would give us a sense of identity throughout the length and breadth of this Indian subcontinent. So language was not the case. Swami Vivekananda says, what went into the making of India as a nation is one common ideology. And that is the great ideology of the Vedas. And the central idea of the Vedas is dharma. This is a very important point. And when we talk about dharma, some very strange kinds of problems emerge, especially how do you translate this term dharma? And let me make this point very clear. English is an extremely poor language when it comes to conveying these dharmic ideas. Because in the West, English is the language of the Europeans. And in the West essentially being a material civilization, they don't have the vocabulary to convey these dharmic ideas and spiritual ideas. That's why Swami Vivekananda always says these ideas are not translatable. You can't translate these terms. That's why whenever we go to translate these terms, for example, dharma has been very usually or commonly translated as religion. And now this is very much misleading to call dharma as a religion. Dharma and religion are totally two different concepts. If we go by what actually religion means in the Western connotation, especially from the standpoint of the Semitic religions, then dharma cannot be religion at all. Why? For if you just go by the Semitic religious ideas, for them, for a certain system to become religious, you have to subscribe to one book. You have to subscribe to one church. And you have to believe in a Savior who alone can bring about redemption to you. And you have to subscribe to all these factors. And without subscribing to these factors, you can't be considered to be a religious person. This is the case with Christianity and Islam. We know this very well. And in this sense, what we are talking about, this great Vedic system of thought, it cannot be translated as religion. Dharma is a totally different concept. You just see in our system, we don't have one single book. We don't have book at all. Because Vedas are not books. This is the first point which every Hindu should know. When we're talking about Hinduism, it is not based upon a book. Because Vedas, which is the very platform on which this great Hindu dharma stands, it is not a book, number one. And our system, Hinduism, is not at all dependent on any personality. Personalities come and go, they come and go. And so thirdly, there is no organized church, a centralized church, which governs the rules of this particular system. So in this way, we see that Hinduism is a totally different thing. It is not as actually, it cannot be equated with religion as it is understood in the Semitic context and in the Western context. Now, what is this dharma? When we talk about dharma, we should keep it in mind. This is dharma is a very vast concept which can be, we can attempt to understand it in different ways. One simple point, let me just make it very simple. You see, this creation which we are experiencing here, it is governed by certain spiritual laws and principles. And these spiritual laws and principles which govern this entire creation, they are existing from eternity. And they will exist for eternity. And these principles and laws, they are not created by any human being. They are eternally existing. That is why the very term dharma means that which holds everything. Dharana dharma mityahu. Dharmo dharayate prajaha. It says, what is dharma? Dharma is that which holds this entire creation. What is holding this entire creation? There are eternally existing spiritual laws and principles. So there have been great rishis who have discovered these eternally existing laws and principles, and that is what has been coming down in the name of this great Vedic system of thought. So this dharma, which we are today knowing as Hindu dharma, it is actually nothing but the Vedic Sanatana dharma. That is, this dharma is said to be Sanatana. It is eternally existing. It didn't come into existence at a certain point of time in history. It has been eternally existing, and it will exist eternally. Now, what goes into the making of India as a nation is this dharmic base. This great ideology where a group of people, I'm talking about the entire Indian subcontinent. Today, of course, we have lost many of the great, in the ancient times, if we just look into the extent of this Indian civilization, it starts from the present-day Afghanistan, Kandahar. From Kandahar to Cambodia has been the extent of the so-called the Vedic civilization, and down to Sri Lanka. Can you just imagine? Today, of course, owing to the Islamic invasion and all those conversions and barbarity which had taken place in the last 1,400 years, Afghanistan is gone. Pakistan is gone. And slowly this area has been shrinking. And today, what India is existing, whatever it is, this group of people who lived a life which is completely in alignment with these dharmic ideas, they formed one nation. They spoke different languages. That is most interesting, actually. One thing we all have to think very seriously. No matter which language we speak, just imagine a person in Tamil Nadu, he is speaking a totally different language. And a person who is in Rajasthan or Haryana or Punjab, he is speaking a totally different language. Both of them totally disconnected as far as language is concerned, totally disconnected as far as the eating habits are concerned, totally disconnected as far as their lifestyle is concerned. And yet, they are connected together by a common ideology, a common thought system, and that is this great thought system of Vaidika Sanatana Dharma. The Tamil Nadu person, the man and woman, he or she also considers Ganga to be sacred. The person in Punjab and Haryana also considers Ganga to be sacred. Both of them believe in Gayatri and Gita. Both of them would go to Kashi and bow down their head before Kashi Vishwanath. What is that binds these two different groups of people? And that binding factor is what is the great system of thought of the Vedas. Swami Vivekananda doesn't stop. He doesn't tire to make us understand that what connects this entire Indian subcontinent is this common ideology of the Vedas. This is what goes into the making of this great Indian nation.